meeting type of meeting that business people have to go to. We've talked a lot about networking events. And one of the big failures of people at networking events is thinking that everything is going to happen at that event. You need to schedule a follow-up meeting. And those meetings should follow a lot of the same things we've been talking about for corporate meetings. You need to understand what it is you're doing, set a time, and you need to follow up after the networking event to really get all of this done. And then there's another follow-up after you have your follow-up meeting, touching base with the person you met with, thanking them for their time. If you were supposed to connect them with anyone, this is when you have that chance to do so. But the networking follow-up also has a structure and follow-up and all of these same elements that you really need to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the follow-up is more important than the meeting itself. I mean, you and I both run networking meetings, and we've gone over this before, but a lot of people go to networking meetings expecting sales, and people only buy things when they need or want something. So networking, by definition, I'm sure you agree with this, is just the process of developing win-win relationships based upon trust, which does not happen when you first meet somebody. And if you do give a referral, if you're giving me a referral and I mess up, you're the one getting the phone call. So your reputation is on the line giving referrals. And once people understand that and that it's all about relationships, they know that their goal at networking meetings is to set up these one-on-one appointments. And just like we talked about there, it's so important to prepare properly for these one-on-one appointments. So in the networking world, you have to talk about things like, what are your goals for your company? Who are your best clients and why? What are good referrals for you? Why are you doing what you're doing? Again, they really care more about you personally. Who are your best clients and why? Who do you need to meet? All this thing has to be done in homework, and it's really, really important to prepare for that. Things that are a little bit outside the box, the more you can train people to be your sales force, like what things should I listen for? What are the misconceptions about my business that if I knock them down before I give the referral to you, you're one step closer to that? These are all different types of things that you need to prepare for. And obviously, if you need a list of these things, you can probably email us and we'll give them to you. But it's really, really important to go in there. And then just like we were talking about at a business meeting, commit to do something for each other, to make an introduction for somebody by a certain date, and to follow up again to keep that process going. Because again, networking is a process, but that first meeting is really so important to get to know each other, because that's where you're really going to start building up the trust. And if it doesn't go well, chances are that trust is not going to develop.
All right. Like with the corporate meetings, you need to understand the purpose of each of these networking meetings. So that first networking event that you're going to, the purpose of that is to meet people and to move on to smaller, one-on-one meetings so you can get to know each other. When I do networking workshops, one of the first questions I ask of people at the networking event is, well, how many of you are here to buy something? And of course, nobody ever raises their hand. So then I point out to them, I ask them to take a look around the room. Said, see, nobody is here to buy. So if nobody is here to buy, why would you come to sell? Networking events are not about sales. And you have to understand that that is not the point of that meeting. Once you get that, the meeting is much more effective for you. When you follow up with people you met at that and have the one-on-one meetings, those meetings are also not about sales. They're about building relationships. And when you understand the purpose of that meeting, and by the same token that we were talking about with corporate, you have an agenda of what you want to accomplish. You have a set time period of when you want to accomplish it. And then you follow up from that, from your discussion. What is it that you can do for each other? And send an email following up on the meeting. Thank you for meeting. Here's what I said I was going to do for you. This is the person I wanted to connect you to. Whatever it is that you agreed on. that follow up is crucial for any meeting, whether it's corporate, a networking event, a one to one meeting. That follow up is very important because when you don't follow up, the meeting ends, and then the purpose of the meeting dies with that meeting because you're not following up and following through on what had to be done.
Yeah, and it is so important to do that because I know I'm very guilty of doing that, just dropping the ball after having a nice first contact at a networking meeting and not following up. But you brought up the most important point. The most important reason that people fail in networking is because they don't really understand what it's about. You just talked about the networking misconception, which is what I call it, which is I join, therefore I get. If I join something like a chamber of commerce, everybody's going to want to buy from me. And that's not the case because it's human nature. You buy when you need or want something. Yet most people go to networking meetings trying to list products and services. They feel great when they get them all out, or they feel upset when they don't get something out, when nobody in the room really cares to be hearing what they're talking about. And if you're not timing them, it gets even more boring because a 30-second commercial turns into a 2-minute presentation. It's so important to just understand that it's all about relationships. So your networking commercial in a networking meeting is what's your value added? How do you help solve problems for people or make them feel comfortable? What's a good referral for you because people are listening to you if you're at an AM connections meeting or that kind of thing. And then most importantly, it's just something nice to say to get people want to have a coffee date with you or that kind of thing. That is the purpose of going to a networking meeting. If you're at a business after hours and there's people walking around the room, rather than hanging out with friends and having a couple of cocktails, if you walk up to people and just get them talking, that's one of the best ways that you can start developing trust because you're showing genuine interest in them. And all you got to do is walk up to them and just ask them a question. Say, "Hi, I'm Chip. What do you do?" And then honestly listen to them, look them in the eyes, ask questions of them to start getting them interested in what's going on. That's how the whole thing works. And that approach works for shy people and it works for people who are a little bit more outgoing.
Right. And again, one of the things that all of these types of meetings have in common is that you want everybody participating in the meeting to feel comfortable about talking. You need everybody participating. So it's very common that at a business after hours type of meeting, you'll have 4 or 5 people in a circle and they're having their conversation. But the message that they're sending out is, well, we've got our conversation here, go away. You don't want that. So instead of having your group be in a complete circle, leave space in that circle for other people to join. And as other people join, make that circle larger so that more people can join. You want to do these things to make it easier for people to participate. And if you're running the event, you should really be looking for people who aren't participating and drawing them in. Uh, and it doesn't have to be in a standard way. I've been at corporate meetings where the facilitator of the meeting had a foam ball. And when it was somebody's time to talk, they would toss the ball at them. You catch the ball, you've got the floor as long as you've got the ball. And periodically, if somebody isn't participating, the facilitator would toss the ball at them. So you want to be bringing in people and drawing them out so that they are participating.
Absolutely. And the bottom line with networking, I mean, there's a lot of people that are afraid to do it up front because they don't know people and so on and so forth. But you and I both experienced this and seen this in a lot of people. Once you get into it and you start doing it more and more, your fear turns into a whole bunch of friendships. And you and I both have met so many good friends that we've met through networking over the years, just by seeing them over and over again and helping them out. And you mentioned another thing as far as facilitator goes, the best thing you can do is facilitate people meeting other people at the meeting. And by doing that, all you have to do is if you see somebody who's standing over there by themselves, the wallflower, find out what they're doing, and then you see somebody else in the room that you know that this person has to meet, connect the two of them right there, get them talking to each other. And one of the coolest feelings that you can have is 10 minutes later seeing them still talking. And it's just a great way to develop relationships and it really, really ramps up your reputation too. So being a facilitator at a networking meeting doesn't just mean running the meeting. It can mean just introducing a couple people because they need to know each other.
All right. And remember, even if you're not the person running the meeting, you can still be doing this. If you see somebody standing aside, get them involved, because the more participation you have in a meeting, the more effective the meeting and the less of a waste of your time it is. And again, that goes for corporate meetings as well as networking meetings. I'm sure most people who have worked in large corporations have been in that meeting where you've got a group of people that are around the table, and then you've got a second group of people that are in chairs behind them against the wall. And there's always certain people that rush for those chairs behind the people so that they don't have to participate as much, so that they can sort of hide behind people. Solicit their opinions, get them involved in your meetings. You want as many opinions as you can get. You want everybody participating, because the more a diverse set of ideas you can generate in a meeting, the more valuable it is. The more a diverse set of people you can meet at a meeting, and in case of a networking event, the better the meeting is for you. But you actually have to meet them. Meeting people does not mean handing them a business card and running off, or getting their business card and running off. Have a conversation. Meetings are about the exchange of ideas. So in a corporate meeting, you want to be able to exchange those ideas in order to meet the goal of the meeting. At a networking meeting, you want to be able to exchange ideas for the purpose of creating relationships. And those relationships then lead you to the one-on-one meeting, where hopefully eventually you will get referrals. But it doesn't happen overnight, and it's not all going to happen at the networking event. The follow-up for all of that is crucial. So once you know the meeting, you know what is expected at the meeting, what the goal of the meeting is. Do your homework ahead of time so you're prepared for the meeting. Keep the meeting to a tight schedule so that you're not wasting people's time. And remember to follow up.
Yeah, and if you are running the meeting, again, it's really, really important to set the tone ahead of time that this is a collaborative effort. It's not just me talking down to you. And it's really, really important if you're attending the meeting. We talked a lot about developing a positive mindset getting into that. And if you can groom yourself to go in with a positive attitude, that's so, so important also. And obviously, developing that culture in the workplace as a person who runs the company is so important too.
Absolutely. All right, we're coming up on the end of our time here. So, Chip, what do you think is the major takeaway for this week?
Basically, it's really, really important. It's corporate, what's expected up front. Send out a meeting agenda, what has to be done for homework, make sure that that's done, keeping it timed properly and flowing properly, finishing with an action plan in writing that is giving out to everybody who's there, and then having accountability with the follow-up there. And the networking side of things, it's really all about developing relationships. And it's the same thing as preparing for that one-to-one meeting, walking out with something that you're going to be doing for each other and having a follow-up on that. So it's a process. And the tighter that you keep the process, the more efficient it's going to be, and the more positive results you're going to be getting out of it.
Yes. I think the big takeaway is that whether you're the facilitator or not, you need to understand what the purpose of the meeting is. You need to do your homework ahead of time. You need to participate in the meeting and help the flow of ideas go. And you need to follow up. And doing those things will keep these meetings from being a waste of your time. So all of that is very important. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also catch us on the Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.